on my wife's part. She was not happy with me. There was arguing between the both of us. And fortunately, we were able to find a Forest Service employee who said that he would be back in about a half hour. He had to run down. He was driving a road grader, and he left his truck about 5, 6, something like that, 7 miles down below. And sure enough, he came back, and we were able, about dark, to hook up and pull it out. And I was able to get out. And it got me thinking about something this week. How many people in our life, and maybe even us sometimes, have been stuck in mud like that spiritually. Yeah. We've been stuck in a place. And when we're stuck in a place that discernment told us not to go, but we went anyways. Am I preaching anyway? Yes. We knew we weren't supposed to go there, but we went there anyways. And all of a sudden, anger set in, and we were looking for someone to blame other than ourselves. We blamed God. We blamed somebody who hurt us, offended us, made us get into a position of anger or bitterness or resentment, whatever it might be. We began to argue with other people over senseless and stupid things. And inside the community of believers, inside the church, we are easily set off. How many know what I mean by that? We're easily ticked off. Our buttons are quickly pushed. All because we're stuck somewhere and we don't want to be there. And we know we shouldn't be there. And I want to focus kind of on that this morning, because I believe that we are in a place in the season and dispensation of God's timeline where the church is about to get unstuck. Amen. The church is about to come out of things that we've been bound up in, and people in our life are about to come out of those things. I believe that we are about to see the sweeping hand of God go all across this nation, including the church. Come on. And He is about to it's almost like when Jesus came into the temple and He turned those tables up. I believe He came in and all the things that were wrong that were in the house of God, come on, all the things that were wrong inside the temple of God, the first thing He did was He just cleaned those tables off. He swept His arm. And then He threw those things upended them so that they couldn't be used again for that type of wicked work inside the church. I'm talking about in the church. But I also believe He swept His hand outside the church to gather to Him all those people that weren't part of His kingdom. And I believe we have seen the sweeping of the hand of God in the church. And I believe we're about to see the sweeping of God's hand outside the church to gather people in. Let me read Psalm chapter 40, verses 2 and 3, and follow along with me. This is a prophetic word to the time, to the age that we are in. It says that He stooped down to lift me out of danger. Somebody say amen. Amen. Come on. Amen. From the desolate pit I was in, out of the muddy mess that I had fallen into. Now He has lifted me up to a firm, secure place and steadied me while I walk along His ascending path. A new song for a new day arises up in me because of all the great things that He has done. Ecstatic praise pours out of me until everyone hears how God has set me free. They will see His miracles at Mike's Food Town. They will see His miracles in the post office. They will see His miracles in the high school. Come on, they will see His miracles on the job site, and they will stand in awe of God and fall in love with Him. Glory to God. I'm a believer in revival. I can't help it. I don't apologize for it. I'm a believer that God is raising up ministers for the last day, not just to keep churches going and to add membership to a roll on a book that is earthly, but I believe God is raising up men and women everywhere who have the spark inside of them to create the need for revival. And I believe that I am one of those people that God is calling to want to believe in revival. Because I believe that prison doors have been shut. And I believe chains have been locked around people for way too long. And as Paul and Silas had their midnight hour when they began to worship God, and He came into that city and He busted loose those prison doors and cut off those chains from everybody that was captive, I believe we are the same Paul and Silas of our day. And as we lift up our voice to praise the King, God is going to come into our cities, revive them, and wake people up and set them free. Amen. As with every awakening like that, I believe that Satan comes in to bring a demonic opposition to the change that move of God is going to present in that region. And I believe that Satan has sown some seed. And I believe that Satan has scattered seed into each one of our lives. And he is waiting to see which of those seeds can take root and grow. And of course, only the ones that we allow are the ones that are going to grow. The ones that we recognize and realize we can pull that up. God can pull that out. But the ones that we water ourselves, are you hearing me? The ones that we cater to, the ones that we give attention to, those seeds grow in our life. They grow in the season that we're in right now. And we tend to get stuck in the mud when those seeds grow. I want to tell you something, and it's pretty much the theme of the message this morning, is that Satan has sown into your past seasons. He can't sow into your future, and I'll explain that in a minute. It's impossible for him to sow into your future. He can only sow into your past and your present. And he tries to keep you right where you're at. That way he doesn't lose the seed that he's invested in you. Let me say that again. He sows into your now and tries to keep you in this season so that he has time for the seed that he's sown to grow into your life. And the only way that that seed that he's sown can grow is if he keeps you in the same place. Let me explain. The same mindset. The same hurt feelings. The same offenses. The same unforgiveness. The same bitterness. The same anger. The same letdowns. The same hurts. The same wounds. The same scars. The same things that you've wrestled with your entire life ought to be an indicator that you're stuck in your own mud. And that you're in a place that you shouldn't be. You're in a season that you don't need to be in. You don't need to be stuck in that place. You don't need to be wrestling with those same battles over and over again, those same disappointments and fears and doubts. Satan cannot sow into your future unless your future is in the same place you're at today. I got to say that again. He can't sow into your future unless your future is in the exact same place you are right now. And then it's really not your future. You're stuck in the same place. The 40-year wilderness journey of the Israelites coming out of Egypt, remember that? How they kept going around. How do you know that wasn't God's plan? That wasn't what God ordained for them. Let me tell you why God sent them into the wilderness. He was just taking them out of a place of bondage. He was just taking them out of a place of cultic religion, of false religion, of lies, of dominance, of bondage. And he was going to cleanse them through a wilderness journey before he took them into the promised land. In other words, let me tell you how God cleanses us when we come out of deliverance. If you've never been delivered, you don't get this. And hopefully this will open your eyes. But when you were bound in bondage and you were stuck in a place, one of the things that God does when he delivers you is he does supernatural miracles that can only be accredited to him. It's a flushing, it's a cleansing, it's a removing everything that was attaching you to that thing that you were bound. He comes in and he just wipes it clean, and you stand back on this side and you go, holy cow, God, that's deliverance. Deliverance is when you're no longer connected to that, but I mean, you don't have a mind connection to it, you don't have a spiritual connection to it, you don't have a flesh connection to it, you don't have a desire connection to it. God literally takes everything about that bondage out of you, takes it out of you. That's what the wilderness was. It was to take Egypt out of Israel. Amen. It was to take everything about Pharaoh and the way that he conducted his life and the way that people looked at false gods or even God. He was going to cleanse them and set them free and give them a new outlook. How was he going to do this? Through the miracles. Through the manna that came, fresh every morning, through the sending of water out of a rock, to bringing the covey of quail, bringing the food to them. God was going to use the wilderness as a way to demonstrate his power and authority in their life so that when they went to the promised land, they could walk as God's miracles and partake in the miracles. Not just be spectators of what God had done in the wilderness, but have faith rise up in them and they now become the miracle workers. Because in the New Testament, Jesus said, you will not just be people who's delivered, set free and healed, but you will now be doing these same miracles that I've done, says Jesus, and even greater. Come on. Our deliverance process through the wilderness is supposed to take but a moment, just a season. We can't stay in there, and I'll tell you why. Because it was in the wilderness that Satan got a hold of him and started sowing his own seed. He started to sow discord. He started to sow fear. He started to sow doubt. They started to go back and wish that they could go back into the bondage that God had set them free from. And they stayed in that wilderness 40 years, which gave Satan enough time to cause those seeds that he had sown in them to grow. Until it manifested in their minds and they no longer believed in God. God sent 12 spies in the land. And only 2 came back with a good report. The rest of them all said the people in the land are giants. We can't go in there. there. Satan's seeds of doubt had grown so long and so well that they manifested in their mind. And they no longer believed that the same God who delivered them and used the 10 plagues and the 10 signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, they no longer believed that that same God could send them into the promised land and rescue them and deliver them and keep them. Satan kept them in a season in the wilderness for 40 years, kept them there as long as it took for his seeds to grow. That's why